VCR Redux will begin in T-5 minutes.
What the fart is VCR Redux?
It's the show where we take movies from the VCR era and bring them back to today.
Well, how do we do that?
Well, we start by talking about a VHS classic, and usually you'll say something like,
I haven't been this uncomfortable since I watched Meatballs 4, Meatballs to the Rescue with my parents. Oh yeah, or you'll say something stupid like,
I wish we lived in a world where the Garbage Pail Kids made as many movies as the Muppets.
but I know you'll always see it through with a positive attitude.
I hate this movie, I hate being here, I hate all of this. Oh, Jamie Kennedy. Oh, well, shit. Well, let's go for this.
He was in Son of Mask. This is genius.
I am not a gamer. I'd rather read books. I'm just
Ian's like the old lady that's like, I got video game monsters, I got toy monsters in here.
As long as we respect the passion and the artistry that went into these films.
You know, obviously they took this movie, it's 93, right? And you're like, what do you want to see in your Mario movie? And they're like, oh, we want it to be grim, we want a lot of death, we want tits and ass.
Oh, and then we start the pitch ideas with modern day sequels like
Weekend at Bernie's 3, Cocaine Mountain.
Sometimes we take it kind of seriously.
I'll watch a Paul Verhoeven alien movie.
Oh my gosh, that alien will have more vaginas than anything you've ever seen in your life. Sometimes this Hawaiian shirted fool will pitch something stupid like,
I would take out the virtual reality stuff and just have it be about Jeff Fahey mowing the lawn.
Sometimes the best pitches come from the live chat.
Alex Bonafonte also pitches Grand Theft Starfighter Vice Galaxy.
Wait, I thought I had the best pitches.
And what happens at the end of the movie? The ultimate fart. The fart that the warmth goes like all the way down to your socks.
The only rules are, there are no rules. Sometimes we cross over franchises.
Only the truck from Tango and Cash can kill Christine.
And sometimes we travel back in time.
Like 1995 is missing a good Universal Soldier sequel.
But you never know what we're gonna pitch next.
What do you want? Do you want Daniel Stern behind like a muzzled mask? Like,
We all know it should be Pesci behind the mask, and like underneath the mask, you should hear him going like fritter, 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 fritter.
You are so proud of yourself for that one. I can't stand you.
I would also love to see a Charles Bronson version of It's a Wonderful Life.
What?
Direct to DVD.
If you made a shot-for-shot remake of Scarface with Goofy as Al Pacino, it would be amazing.
Oh my God.
Dorsey, you need me to be the bad guy.
It's like the worst 1987 Disney movie Disney's ever made. Schlongo, directed by Jim Wynorski.
Like, I would watch a whole bowl of that.
Do the John Holmes story. Add a comedy spin to it.
Wow, the Wonderland murders are so funny.
I'd watch it on my mobile.
Something happens and he goes into a coma. He gets like, hit by a car or something. I know this is dark, but like, bear with me. He's got to go on.
Did you just go like Hard to Kill with Ferris Bueller?
I'd watch it on my iPad.
If you want to just like throw in the kitchen sink, it all works. Like Alien vs. Predator vs. RoboCop. Like if that works. Alien vs. Predator vs. Terminator. That works.
Alien vs. Predator vs. Ernest. That works.
That works.
I respect everything you just said. I need David Silver and Terry Silver and the Sloan family all learning the Quicksilver, but they're doing it in Breakin' 3 Hydraulic Boogaloo, and it's underwater. It's gonna be incredible. Eat your fucking shit out, James Cameron. I got the underwater movie you can't touch.
That was the most disgusting thing I've ever heard in my life.
Mr. Toxie Goes to Washington.
My ass would be in the theater tomorrow.
If Harley Quinn gets 7 movies, then Tank Girl should get at least 70.
That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard of in my life.
I mean, why should we even bother with Look Who's Talking when Air Bud is soaring to new highs?
All I know is I want Danny McBride.
I'd want him doing anything other than writing Halloween movies, honestly. Anything that keeps him away from that fucking job, I'm for it.
Just let him talk out of his butt. I don't care how he does it.
I'd rather not.
Austin Powers doing the Macarena.
That would be the opening credits. Come on.
But we have not yet had Die Hard on a half pipe. What if John McClane Jr. was a pro skateboarder and also an avid machine gun enthusiast? Skate or Die Hard.
What up, virtual people? Welcome to the 143rd episode of VCR Redux, where we take your favorite franchises out of the analog era and bring them back to 2024. I'm your host, pop culture punk Chris Stiles, joined as always by my co-host with the most, film professor Ian Klink.
How you doing, everybody?
And we have three radical guests on the show tonight. First up, the third leg of our VCR tripod himself. Oh, Mickey, you're so fine. Mac Daddy Mickey Torres is Mick back on the show.
What's up, everyone?
And he's the managing editor of Canatech Today, whose work has been featured in Dread Central, High Times, and Rolling Stone. Andrew Ward is on the show.
Yo, how's it going?
Thank you so much for coming on. And rounding out this righteous crew, he's a location scout and second unit director who's worked on Law & Order, Wu-Tang and American Saga, and Dead Ringers. Michael Ricci is on the show.
Hello.
Thank you so much for joining us, guys. A couple of VCR first-timers here. We are here to put on our magic shoes, to meet some presidents, and to find out that shrimpin' ain't easy. That's right, folks. This world needs Forrest Gump too, and we're here to give it to you. But before Ian says that life is like a box of gas station pizza, we got a dish on how Forrest Gump came into our lives and what we love about it. And of course, that goes double for you at home and everyone watching the live chat. Was it love at first Laserdisc? Vital VHS? Hit us up in the chat and let us know how Forrest Gump came into your lives. So, dudes, Michael, or Andrew, whoever wants to go first.
Right.
When did you first get gumped?
You want to go first, Andrew?
Yeah, sure. I'll kick it off. So I first got gumped. It must have been about 95, 96. I would say it wasn't VHS, although we probably were pretty active in the Blockbuster days getting our videos. But I would say it came from HBO or the Prism channel, if anybody remembered that local service back in the Pennsylvania area. And yeah, it came on. And I think I remember that one being like a big crowd hit in our family because we were like grew up in the burbs, big like white America burbs. My dad was on that Americana kick and the nostalgia kick, and he really like would mark out every couple of minutes with all the flashback scenes. So that ended up in like regular rotation in our house for like years on end after that.
Oh man, I feel like it is like the quintessential 90s family can come together and everyone can finally agree on a movie. That's a pretty heartwarming story. I like that. What about you, Mike? When did you first get gumped?
I don't like fully remember. I think it's something similar. Although like one of the first movies I saw in the theater was actually Aliens. So like anything could happen. So I kind of think maybe I remember it in the theaters, but more likely yes, an HBO situation like family popcorn movie. And we'll get into it obviously, but I think I mostly remember not understanding Jenny's story at all, really, until like years later. And I think that was one thing that struck me about it. But then I think, you know, he's just so likable and there's so much you learn as a kid watching this movie with so much of it being so accurate, like other than him being inserted in there. Just the tone being so accurate, everything being accurate. And then like it doing things that other movies didn't do. Like, you know, like when he goes silent in the speech, like no movie does that. And if they do, it's total comedy. And here it's like a political statement. So like, I guess I just didn't, I loved it and the family loved it, but there are some problem areas where it's hard to explain. And then to explain politics to a then 11 or 12-year-old Mike Ricci is like not really going to happen, you know?
Oh man, I love it. So then how did you see Aliens in a re-release then? Not to like get
no, dude, my dad took us. Like
you were like a toddler
like
seeing
too
Aliens?
Small for Aliens.
Wow,
you know what I mean?
That's amazing.
And so in space, people heard me scream, you know, and I remember a couple of us and afterwards, way later realizing like that's poor parenting and that's not far off. So, yeah.
I love
but
that.
also
The
flash
90s,
because
they
I
did
didn't
the
see
best
Aliens in the theater.
They did the best they could. Every parent in the 90s did the best they could.
Okay. My parents took me to Batman for my first one, but I fell asleep in it, so I guess.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Wow,
I would have done that.
That's a great one.
Yeah. I was 3 and I regret that I didn't stay up for it.
My parents took me to Fantasia. We cried.
That was freaky too.
That's a fun one.
Talking about those brooms.
All right, when did Mickey get gumped? Was this a McDate?
No, I won't talk about the first time I actually saw this movie. It's not
Have
a
to.
good.
Oh,
they're gonna say that.
He's entitled to his
Risque.
privacy, folks. It sounds like
no.
this might have been a McDouble date.
No date, no nothing like that. It's just the
three-way.
circumstances were not great and kind of like you know, I don't know. We just messed up. So in any event, So I won't
So
talk about the
you
first
looking
time
for
I
a
saw it.
McDouble? He got a McDouble with
Snuck
cheese.
in or something like that.
So
I get it.
So the first time I saw it, I mean, I won't talk about, but the second time I saw it was on cable. I saw it on HBO, whatever the case may be. And since then, I gotta watch it every time it's on TNT or anything like that.
Which is every weekend.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
Is
That's
TNT a heavy hitter for Gump? I feel like TNT is like still doing all the Warner stuff, like all the Lethal Weapons. And,
Oh no, it's
Really,
like
sports?
Forrest Gump
I mean,
followed
TNT is
by.
like
I don't know if it's still
sports now,
wa-
but-
Yeah.
TNT, TBS. Like
I will. The
mean, not
'90s
as-
TNT was
Turner.
different. Yeah.
TNT in like 2007, it was
Mhm.
always Shawshank Redemption and Forrest Gump.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's
Shawshank.
call
I
a
remember
spade a
seeing
spade,
Shawshank
right?
there, too.
TNT is Turner, that's based out of Atlanta. And where was this
Correct.
movie filmed? In the South. It's a Southern movie, so like it makes a
Yeah.
lot of sense.
And that's why
just gonna pay the
WCW
rights and
Wrestling
play
was
it
in the middle.
forever, you know.
Exactly. Which, that's good stuff too. That's 6:05 Eastern on Saturdays.
6:05.
And really try to name another movie that I know we're gonna go for it, and I have my own pitch, but name another movie that you can't do a sequel to like this. And there aren't that many, really.
Oh yeah. I mean, I find the joy of VCR Redux is to kick those stones over and see what kind of like parasites crawl out from underneath,
big one. Yeah.
aborted
Disgusting.
sequel scripts and like you should never make It's a Wonderful Life sequel, but we pitched one. Like
Sure.
you should never make a follow-up to Captain Power, but we pitched one,
You could make something like inspired by it or adjacent to it. Like, oh, someone saw Forrest Gump when they were a kid and then they went on to save the world. Like, okay, I'd buy that. Not as a direct sequel.
Yeah, of the
sort of
90s,
like-
I mean, it's like Gump, Titanic, and Jerry Maguire, and we've done now we're doing the second of that trilogy here.
Except, didn't they make Titanic too? Didn't they do that?
They did.
Yeah.
No, it keeps getting rumored. They never made Titanic too.
No, like
I thought they
someone
made a
terrible
direct-to-video
did it.
one.
Like,
Nah, just it's.
I mean,
that,
I'm
like,
pretty sure that like Titanic is public domain, so anyone
Yeah,
can
it's that
technically
mid.
come along and say, "Hey,
they just had
I'm
some
making a
auction.
film."
They sold a bunch of shit from it for like millions, I guess.
And
I-
technically, there was like
Where?
one way in the early 1900s. So like Titanic is kind of technically the sequel, I guess, on that one.
Public domain.
Yeah.
Oh, true.
It's like Mickey Mouse. now.
There was one with like ice
Or-
cubes
or
from
the-
like 1911.
or the actual,
well,
like-
not 1911. That would be prophetic.
or the
Titanic too.
actual
Oh,
like.
Floats. Get out of
Oh,
here.
Hope Floats is a
Bravo.
great movie. Hope Floats is a great movie. So
Oh man, let's not get into the
So,
Sandy
Ian, when did
B
you first
cinema.
see it? Not to take
Um,
Chris's thunder here, but
Well, yeah, when did Young Iowa Ian come upon this?
So it would have
Iowa
been
Ian.
it would have been in Iowa City at the Sycamore Mall on its first run. And I remember what I remember the most of it. I mean, it was a movie everybody was talking about, and we all liked it. But what I remember the most was my dad at the theater. Anytime my dad laughs at something or finds something hysterical, he has a certain laugh that he'll do. So it's kind of like the Peter Griffin, like when anybody says the title of the movie, there's that. So I remember when John Lennon does the Imagine line where he goes, "They have no war or no possessions too." I just remember my dad in the back of me because I was in the front and they were in the back of me. My dad just goes, That's my dad's laugh. Like, throughout all of Forrest Gump, anytime there's a cultural reference for his baby boom generation, there'd just be this subtle.
was
It's
that because
interesting,
you were too cool to sit with him? That you like?
I
sat
don't
with-
know. I just remember sitting in front. I probably.
Good baby
sometimes it
boomer.
was- I mean-
slam. That was good too, by the way.
I can remember having to do that sitting in front of your parents or something. You couldn't get because your parents would take their kids and some friends, and it's like you got like 8-9 people at the movies, and you're not gonna find like 8-9 seats in a row all next to each other. So it's like, all right, you kids go sit up there, and we'll sit in the back or whatever.
I mean,
But,
my
well,
dad's
well,
like
yeah.
fat too, so like he needed like 2 seats. So it was like you don't want to be
Well-
he's apart and stuff, so you don't want to be over there.
The funny part is, though, you talk about like Forrest Gump being a Southern movie. So this was filmed in Savannah, Georgia, and I ended up going to Savannah College of Art and Design.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, so I went there,
I
and,
love
and I also I worked there for a lot of years. And the most fascinating part of the movie that backs everybody who lives in Savannah is they filmed it in one of those famous parks. The bench was in this one of these parks. The problem is all the all the parks go this way. If you're driving in the car, you all go this way. For some odd reason in the movie, they reversed it.
No, that's trivia. They did that so the bus would open the right way.
Is that what it was? Yeah,
They
so
did it.
So
Yeah,
you watch the
you
movie. if you're-
inadvertently nailed a huge bit of trivia that they reversed all traffic so that the bus could open the right way. That's exactly what they did. Your memory is pristine.
Yeah. Now the bench, though, the bench is still down there, but they had to remove it because students kept doing naughty things on the bench.
Yeah,
So
and they wanted to
it's in a
preserve it.
museum.
Yeah.
And then there's some things
And-
about the
and
feather,
why
I
not?
guess.
Why
Like
why
parts of
should
the-
they do naughty things on the bench?
Well, they didn't. It's going to degrade over time because look, movie stuff is cheap. We don't make anything to last, you know.
So are
It's
relationships, but they
But
still
I
have
guess
those.
the other thing, I guess parts
Honestly.
of the feather are actually real. Like I don't know that I buy that, but just because like how the hell could that be real? But they say like
Oh, so no, I can explain how you. This is a great VFX movie. You know, basically the way it works with the feather is, you know, the opening shot, say, you know, obviously that's in, like 99% digital. The whole floating around, camera tracking it, you know, that's all digital. What they had on set was a real a real feather resting on Forrest's shoe. So they painted that out and they created a digital feather to match it with like the shoe print. And then they basically had it land in the exact spot of the real feather and just blended it. So when he picks it up, you can't really tell that there's much of a change. But I mean, there's a lot to, you know, I mean, we could just talk about the VFX in this movie forever because it really is a breakthrough of a VFX movie.
Yeah.
And especially
it
in
is.
terms
You're
of
right.
how it's used.
And it holds up. Most of it holds up.
It does.
Because Zemeckis had incredible foresight and he really had a good knowledge, and a lot of credit to Ken Ralston. Just knowing where the limit was, where like how much you could bullshit things and like what you had to do to accomplish believable
Those
stuff.
lips
Like
still suck though on John.
the lips
Do you
suck.
buy
Yes.
the ping pong stuff? Do you buy that? I never bought that as a kid. I was
So
like,
the
no
ping pong
way.
stuff, I bought it back then. That doesn't hold up incredibly well anymore. But there's a lot that you don't realize is digital in this movie, like the Washington Monument scene. Like, you think they really had a crowd that big? No.
Yeah.
So they
Yeah.
put the camera on a motion control and repeated the same camera movement all fucking day. And they had about 200 extras, and they just kept moving them. So now you're up front, now you're left,
Yeah.
now you're right, now you're back.
Now you just do
you're
that
mid-
with AI. But yeah.
Yeah, and it'd be so easy, but the result is so good because it's a digital crowd, but it's not. It's an analog crowd that's just stitched together digitally, and it fills the entire,
You do that for
place.
Walking Dead, but I don't think it holds up. I feel like you see the crowd sort of undulate like the walkers, and I don't buy these huge bits. Like they're like, oh yeah, we just like copy and paste and move around. I'm like, yeah, that's all right. That's all right.
Yeah, The Walking Dead has its moments for sure. But
You
I
guys,
went
here's
into
one
my
other
first
thing
time.
I was thinking about. Do you buy this movie as a straight up sports movie when you think about it? I mean, he plays football for Alabama. He plays world championship ping pong. He runs all this time. He plays every sport that there is, and he's so good at everything. But it's like not a sports movie, you know?
This is
That's
not.
the,
I'm
that's
not
the
putting this in
Nintendo
sports
Wii game that we need, where you just have to do all the Forrest Gump
All the
things,
Forrest
you know?
stuff, yeah. Because I never really noticed it till later. I went to school down south and I saw Alabama play. But when you watch that, he is the only person who has no dirt on him, and it's supposed to be like he's so fast that nobody can catch him. And that's kind of a thing in sports. Like guys talk shit and say that. Like, my jersey's clean because you can't catch me. And it's like, Forrest did it first. Like, something about that. I picture Forrest with like a grill and like, throwing signs and be like, trade me. Buffalo, trade me.
Oh man, I would watch
What if
that.
he goes
Like,
pro from Alabama?
Forrest
Everyone who
Gump.
plays for Alabama gets drafted. Every single one of them.
I mean, if we had that sequel, if we had that sequel, he would have. He got drafted by
That
the
wasn't my
Saints.
pitch. Damn it.
Exactly.
Damn it,
But
I'm sorry.
after he did his
Semi-tough,
tour,
yeah.
because remember, after he did his tour, because he has to do, he had got drafted.
So I will get to my first time getting gumped in a sec. I do want to catch in with the live chat here, though. I see Angie Saunders is in there. Her first time was VHS. She also proclaims Jenny is the devil. Deal with it. She used Forrest over
There's
and over.
so much hatred towards Jenny nowadays. It is
know.
fascinating. It is so
know.
fascinating. But mainly
Adults
because
Code.
I remember in 1995 thinking she just gave Forrest Gump whatever she had. Am I the only one that thought that?
I'm conflicted on Jenny. Look, I said earlier, like I didn't understand Jenny's story. And
I think
a flash to what I would say about it is like, look, it sucks for Forrest, but if she doesn't get sick, she never goes back to him. And it never happened.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like, it's weird to me because it's like she's a charity case, but he's really the charity case. You know, like she needs him because she's sick. And like that part of it to me was, you know, and some of her scenes like that when she's in front of that house, like splayed out, I get it. It's like an art piece, but I didn't get it at the time, you know, and I still
they're like a classic codependent couple. You know, they, you know, Jenny was dropping in every time she needs, and, you know, Forrest had no idea what was going on, but he kind of needed her, and she did empower him at times, and then really kind of set him back at other times. It's a deeply interesting relationship,
and her relationship with men is wild to say the least because of her dad and everybody else. You know, how she got this. All this
many times in the movie you see her as like taking advantage of Forrest.
Yeah.
And then other times you see her as like, you know, being Forrest's only real friend.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like it's one of those things where it's like you could say, yeah, she used him, but just as equally, I mean, he used her. I mean, but like
he was infatuated with her. It's like
it was their
weird way.
It was their relationship. They were okay with it.
Everybody was fine.
They were fine with it. They were okay with it. It's the ebbs and flow. You know, Forrest was forever in love with Jenny. Jenny was never going to be in love with Forrest as far as romantically, but she always loved Forrest for who Forrest was.
Yeah, she accepted him. Yeah.
So there was love.
Lieutenant Dan eventually gets there and is very defensive of him. But early on, he's like, you POS, like you're not worth anything. You know, I mean, that's a military thing, but you also kind of believe that for a while. And then he turns a corner, you know, with his wife and the legs and all of that. It's like somehow Forrest just has a thing where he can inspire people, you know, with the running, with the sports, with all of it. He can just achieve.
It's just been interesting because I remember when the movie came out, you know, people really loving the love story of Jenny and Forrest. And it's just been fascinating over the years, just seeing more and more and more just people turning on this movie because of Jenny.
And I never thought.
I mean, I think that can be reflective of, you know, in some cases, not in every case, but you know, you grow up and you know, people disappoint you. You start to, you know, people get almost bitter. You know what I mean? Like you get scarred up by life, and it's like, oh, you know what? Like, actually, fuck that person. Like, and
that's what it's been fascinating.
I know it's a very. I have some of my best friends that go on and they hate this movie because they hate Jenny, or they love the movie but they hate Jenny, or whatever.
It's also a movie that's like singular in a lot of ways. So if you're just not into a big piece of it, you know, and it's been around a while now. You know what I mean? I mean, we're talking about it. And
you don't like 1 hour, there's 2 more.
I just never, and maybe I need to do more research, but I've always been fascinated to ask, you know, or see Robin Wright. Well, I guess Robin Wright Penn or
Robin Wright. Yeah,
Robin Wright now.
Just hearing her perspective on Jenny now. You know, not when she played it, but
that'd be cool.
You know, just to hear, you know, did she understand then how people would react to Jenny, or did she expect the turn over these years of just, you know, of you know, I watch people watch Forrest Gump and they'll be hating the fact that he's crying at her grave. I mean, I sit there and I bawl my eyes out every time.
Wait, they're watching the movie, like looking at the screen, and you're not looking at the screen, and you're watching them watch.
We've all done that. Oh, come on, you know, you popped in a movie and you want to see your friend's reaction.
Yeah, a reaction like your dad, but
I'll sit there like I'm sitting there watching, and there's these people watching Jenny and just going like.
Well, I get what you're saying.
It's hilarious.
I think
so. I do want to finish
boomers
up.
see themselves like, didn't everybody do a little bit of drugs in the 70s? Didn't everybody dabble with this stuff? Maybe they didn't go as far as Jenny did, but I think they reject that now. They're like, no, drugs are bad, okay? And I didn't do that, okay? And like they're now away from that. And that is the part of the movie that they reject. One other part I want to talk about here that we haven't talked about is how realistic the Vietnam stuff is. Vets say that it's the best Vietnam stuff. And Gary Sinise was so popular with this. He has raised so much money for veterans.
Oh, yeah.
how can you hate this movie with what it's done for veterans? Like that alone to me is enough. Let alone all the other stuff. You know,
I would definitely agree, but I do want to finish up with the live chat here. Gold's Code, of course, saying there is a book sequel already. Do your research, Ian. He says it's called Gump and Co. Leave it to Ian to waste an episode.
No,
so
of
it
course
just
I've actually read Gump and Company. Shut up.
Yeah, we know about it. We
Also-
just don't respect it.
He goes
Also-
into outer space. I refuse to acknowledge.
Yeah,
that.
with like a monkey or something, and like who
I
is
need
the
this.
Well,
All
that,
right,
was in the
now
first, that was in the first one.
now
And
my
they
interest-
got a
Covert ops in
franchise
Iran,
restaurant
Iraq,
out of
then
it. Like,
space.
Yeah, it's weird. They were smart to leave that part out of.
yeah, the writer, like R.I.P. He died a couple years ago during COVID, so who knows? But other than getting his book adapted into this movie, doesn't have a lot going on. I mean, there was an Indian
Yeah.
remake, I guess, that was very popular, but like other than that, he's like not really a thing. You know, like Tom Hanks isn't out there like best writer ever. You know, like nobody's doing that.
Well, also,
it makes you
also-
appreciate-
Chris,
um,
we totally skipped. Like, how did you see this movie first time?
I will get there. I'm just trying to get through the live chat first. So there's a few other people in there. Thank you though. So also in the chat, the bearded miniaturist who will be on the show next week for our Nutty Professor episode says, I definitely rented it from Blockbuster. That was my first Gump viewing. Monica Thyman says she saw it on video for the first time ever. Remembers liking it. Dustin Nino says first time was theater. Whole family loved it. The CGI was a blast way back then. Gold's Code also saw it on video. So I guess more overwhelmingly a video hit for people. This was one of those movies for me personally. I remember seeing in theaters multiple times, and the first time in a rare form, my parents took me to see this movie, and they're like, "We've already seen this, but you need to see this movie." And I don't know why, like, if they thought I was, maybe slow or something.
Don't do drugs.
Like, yeah, you need to see this. You're not that smart. Get the box of chocolates already.
Yeah.
But no, I remember I was very surprised that like usually I'm the one dragging the family to see a movie repeatedly. Like, oh, we got to see Back to the Future 2 again. We got to see Batman again. We got to see whatever again. And I was just so shocked that I was like, wow, you guys want to see a movie again? Okay.
No, they wanted to see the movie again. You were the catalyst to let them do it. That's what
They
I
thought they were
guess, yeah.
secret.
I guess.
Under the
Like, oh, yeah.
guise of parenting. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess, but usually they would have no problem just leaving me at home alone for
It's
a
like my
night, but-
mom at Christmas. She always will get videos for us. She'd always get like, we got Independence Day in like 1997. Not because we wanted Independence Day. My mom wanted to watch Independence Day.
Talk about another one I've seen too much, probably. Chris, go deeper there though. You saw it twice in the theater. Do you remember more? Like, do you
Oh
remember
no, I think I saw
trailer?
it three. I think I saw it maybe 3 or 4 times in the theater, honestly. It became this
Wow.
thing where all of a sudden I had to show all my friends this movie. I felt like I had seen like I was like, 9 or 10. I felt like I'd seen kind of like an adultish movie, and I was like, oh, it's really good, it's hilarious and all this stuff. And so like I think I went again with my friend Adam, and then I
Got
think I went again
gumped.
with my friend Larry, and I repeatedly
You,
got
you
gumped.
did it that many times. So do you remember more? Like, do you remember like a trailer in front of it or like a vibe in the theater that you might not? Because we all saw it on video and at home, so like we didn't get that crowd reaction.
So I don't remember much of the crowd reaction because I think when I first saw it, it was maybe in its second weekend or something, and it was still pretty packed. And then the other times, I think it was like later in the run. So the theaters weren't that packed by that point. It was probably like half empty theaters. But I mean, I just remember each time seeing it with a different friend and different parents, and the adults and the kids always were just like, the whole conversation on the car ride home was like, oh my God, wasn't that scene great? Or like, oh my God, wasn't this scene hilarious? Or like, oh man, that scene was awesome.
There's
So
so
it
many
was just-
set pieces, big set pieces,
Yeah. And
I like the
remember
idea of
when
you. Oh, sorry.
Oh, so
I was gonna say no. I just like the idea of you like almost spreading this to your friends, like it's an underground like indie
Yeah.
hit when it's like Forrest Gump.
Yeah, I know,
Like a
right? And
virus.
little did I, by the time the movie came out on video, I realized that like, okay, everyone has seen this and everyone's excited for the video. It was one of those like borderline like T2 Jurassic Park level video releases where
Yeah.
people were like
Yeah.
really hyped up, like, dude, we're gonna have it at home now. This is gonna be great, like blah blah blah.
Mhm.
And I don't know, Robert Zemeckis was and will always be one of my favorite filmmakers, one of my favorite directors. Like his run is as good as anyone's. And I think Forrest Gump is his masterpiece, in short. Like I think it's everything Robert Zemeckis does
Wow,
well.
you say that the Back to the Future King? You think
I
this
love
is
Back to the
Better
Future.
than? Wow.
I love Back to the Future. Back to the Future is a movie. Forrest Gump's a film, so you have to grade them on different scales. Back to the Future is one of the best movies ever
Sounding
made.
so elitist right now.
I know this is
you
usually
didn't see-
Ian's role on the show.
You did
but-
see Beowulf, sir.
But here's the thing: like Back to the Future, I did not see Beowulf. I can't get into this CG era of Zemeckis. I'm sorry. I love Zemeckis. I'll watch Flight. I watched
This
Flight
is
many
like
times.
a kiss and a slap. You just said he's the best. It's the masterpiece, and then you can't watch one of his movies. Like that doesn't jive, yo.
Welcome to Christmas.
You can make good and bad things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Contradiction in terms.
And you can make things that just aren't for me. Like I love the Beatles, but if they did a country album, I wouldn't have really much interest in listening to it. Or,
So you're not listening to the new Beyonce. That's a shame.
Yeah.
I guess I'm not listening to new Beyonce.
Because you got to be listening to Taylor Swift because it's everywhere all the time. Like it's ridiculous.
Oh well, yeah. I mean, I'm a
89
Swiftie
killer album.
or whatever they're called. No,
The Winger.
I don't. I haven't listened to music since Winger. So
I don't believe it.
You know,
Although this
so-
soundtrack, we got to acknowledge this soundtrack.
yeah. So this is also
Yes.
a turning point. This is a turning point for film soundtracks. I know Ian's disappointed there's no Dokken on the Forrest Gump soundtrack, but
I
it was
am for
was
sure.
a real turning point for soundtracks because I feel like between the Forrest Gump soundtrack and the Dazed and Confused soundtracks in the 90s, it was like, all right, it was like, forget about modern pop music and movies like it was in the 80s. We're putting classic rock hits, and every
Yeah.
soundtrack that does is going platinum.
All
And
right.
These were like the two biggest soundtracks, I feel like, of the 1990s. And that's at a time where you
You
had
got
like,
The Bodyguard.
the body. Okay, the
Oh,
Bodyguard
yeah,
was
but
huge.
I mean,
Everybody
she's
had The
the music
Bodyguard.
star.
Every mother
That's
had the
different.
CD of The
Forrest
Bodyguard.
Gump doesn't have his own album.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I remember getting the library. I remember finding the Forrest Gump soundtrack and ripping, the CD like of all that music.
But that's the thing. Like this soundtrack was not like there wasn't any original songs that I remember. It's all classic songs.
Pure nostalgia.
So like which is, I guess maybe it started that trend where it's there was soundtracks that didn't have original songs. It was just the classic
like
songs,
composed music.
Yeah.
Like a score. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like
You know
like
what-
Chris was saying, the difference between a film and a movie. I would actually start to say Forrest Gump is a little bit more of a movie because it didn't go for art everywhere. It brought in songs that existed instead of composing music as a score, which you would do for a film, right?
Well, Forrest Gump has a score composed.
No, it
by the
does.
great
It
Alan
does.
Silvestri.
It does. Yeah.
You know,
I just
it's,
mean that you lean on the not pop song, but you lean on the popular songs that are in the movie, and that's what people remember a little bit.
Well, I will say, I
here's
always argue the reason you think that Creedon's
Creedence Clearwater
Fortunate
Revival.
Son.
Oh, Vietnam, yeah.
Yeah.
The reason you think that song sounds like a helicopter is because of Forrest Gump. I am 100%. Every time somebody hears that song, they're thinking of Forrest Gump.
Yeah, because you associate it with the visuals. Of
Yeah,
Vietnam.
and so you listen to that song, and you're like, it sounds like a helicopter.
I don't know, because I think we talked about this before about like it's how you come into something, but I guess like you were younger, so this was probably maybe one of the first times you heard that song.
Yeah,
but since I was older, I had heard it already. It was just more like a classic song. So,
Yeah,
like
like
I
a
don't
good
like, when
use of a song that you already knew about. Yeah.
When I hear it, I don't automatically think Forrest Gump.
It's like when I hear Beastie Boys now, I'm like, that's awesome. They're using the song. I've heard it 5 million times, but like that's a good use for it. There was some trailer
Correct.
recently they like cut up Beastie Boys and it was like kind of sick, and I'm like, oh, that's a good use of that song.
I mean, I
It's
hear
not the original thing
I hear
so-
Beastie Boys. I just think of Hot to Trot. So that's
Okay, come on. That is a way oversimplification. And I live in Brooklyn, so I will just chalk that up to Iowanese or whatever that is.
whatever. Hot to Trot. Forrest
Gas
Gump might have
station
won an
pizza.
Academy Award. But you don't have John Candy as a talking horse.
Because
That's a movie.
look, I won't get that serious about Forrest Gump, but you're gonna slam the Beastie Boys like that, and I'm gonna bring the noise, okay?
Oh
And, like,
no, man! I'm
I'm not sleeping until I'm back. I'm not in Brooklyn right now. Truth be told.
Dabney Coleman, Bobcat Goldthwait. What else do you need?
You really
Oh,
don't.
wait,
Yeah.
John
Yeah.
Candy as a talking horse.
All right.
You guys
before
tell me
we-
you're doing a Bobcat movie, like, oh my God, what's the one? Nothing to lose, or something. The one with John Candy's the horse. Like, if you haven't done that one, we got to do that one.
Not to try. Oh yeah.
All right.
I know
before we
I'm
go-
fucking with you, obviously. But yeah, Bobcat's
Before-
great. One of my favorite things in all the Police Academy movies is him. You know.
Oh, you guys just became lifelong friends.
Where is he
before we-
anyways? Wasn't he directing for a little while? And
Yeah,
like-
he's direct. He does a lot of TV directing now.
Oh, cool. Well, I guess. Yeah. Yeah.
So it is about pitch time, and that goes for everyone in the audience as well. And obviously, it should be stated that, of course, there should not be a sequel to Forrest Gump, but it's
Why
kind
would
of
you
fun to
start
just.
it off that way? Of course.
I
there's-
just know,
Yeah.
like we've done this many times, and I always say, like,
Disclaimer.
you know,
About-
when we did "It's a Wonderful Life," I said there shouldn't be a sequel to that. You know, Captain Power, that'll never.
It's
get
a
made.
horrible
You know,
one.
There's plenty, but it is fun to throw spaghetti around the room and play "What If" in the case of Forrest Gump, and I think this becomes one of those things like we did with Jerry Maguire, where it's just since you can't take it seriously, you kind of have fun with it. I wouldn't be surprised if we stumble onto something watchable. There are already pitches in the live chat though, so that's a great place to start out. I see Gold's Code. Looks like he has a couple in there. But I will start with what will surely be Ian's favorite. Gold's Code's pitch. Gump is running down a hill and almost hits a rollerblader, saying that the terrain is like a devil's backbone. The rollerblader is a producer and uses it in a movie, the movie Airborne. Wow, I love this. That's not the Airborne pitch I was expecting, but
It's still sports. Rollerblading is a sport, so there's that. We know Forrest could do it.
So there's a lot of things that like immediately my mind goes to like, okay, what if you Next Generation it, right? It's Forrest Gump's son. And even though he's really smart, we could make him socially awkward as fuck. Like he's so smart that he can't relate to anyone. And he's just but
he's athletic.
Along your lines with that, because I think we're thinking the same thing in a way. Like to me, I would love to see Forrest raising him, and they alluded to like the kid. They alluded to the kid being like Forrest as well.
Can
you have like father son kind of like going through the different eras and different things, like maybe the son starts playing football and the father's coaching like Lombardi or something like that, or like or whatever. I mean like later on, I mean like you got more of the 80s,
and you can actually have
thing to inspire people, right? Because like all the people he inspires, like Lieutenant Dan and him and Bubba gets like he really kind of helps people just by being friends with them. Maybe it's just that, and it's all the people that it's more like Pee-wee's Adventure, but it's like he's not that weird. I like the really smart thing though. I think that's interesting.
It would be funny. Oh,
I think
it'd be funny.
I was gonna say I've done this for years, and I kept thinking, I always thought, well, because I did the same thing, Chris. Is like automatically it'd always be Forrest Gump's kid, and basically it would be millennials movie. If Forrest Gump was
next
a baby
3
boomer,
decades, right?
It would be, and I keep thinking, what are the events that would be in this movie? Over the years, I've thought about this, and I keep
Challenger.
Challenger.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You'd have the Challenger. You would have Desert Storm.
I love it.
You'd have to cover Blockbuster Video. You'd have to cover
Death of Michael Jackson.
You'd
OJ.
have to cover. You'd have to
Princess
cover
Diana.
OJ
OJ
Simpson.
for sure.
I just was talking about this the other day.
Yeah.
Talk about
If he's not
90s,
Princess Diana,
Tanya Harding,
crazy.
Joey Buttafuoco.
like talk about 90s
Lorena
moment.
Bobbitt.
Our teacher in 5th grade actually brought in the TV. We went down to get our food, came back to our classroom, and as a 5th grader, I watched the O.J. Simpson verdict in my classroom eating lunch.
Yeah.
Like
I think
That
Forrest
is-
Jr. should
watching
be
that, and I'll show
in the
my
White
age
Bronco.
to you. I instantly asked my mom, I'm like, Mom, how is the sun still out? Like, what's going on? And like, well, that's LA and it's a later time zone. I was like, whoa.
Yeah, but that would be a moment that Forrest Gump Jr. would go through. He would experience it. And obviously the big one is going to be 9/11. I mean that for millennials, that's our Kennedy. That's our that's our thing.
Oh,
would
maybe
the
he goes
big one
down with
be-
the United flight and he's one of the people that saves everything. That'd be wild.
Or you were forgetting another really big thing of the 90s, and I know Sean Gold kind of shed light on this a little bit, but
Amy
rollerblading.
Fisher?
I think Forrest Gump Jr. would hit skating hardcore.
Oh.
He would
hit all the 90s
parkour
things.
eventually.
He would do parkour. He would do rollerblading.
Hockey.
He would,
He would go
Hockey was
goth
pretty
and
big
wear
in the 90s.
jinkos and a chain on his
Yeah.
wallet.
Yes. Oh my
He listens
god.
to he shows up at a Limp Bizkit concert.
He starts
He
hanging
sings
with a totally
he sings with
insane clown
Eminem.
posse.
He's one of
Oh my
the
god.
in the
Can
background.
you
he's
see
one of the-
Forrest
to connect.
crowd surfing? Can you
He's
see
one of the
Forrest
real
crowd
Slim Shadys
surfing
in
to
the
try to
He
get
would
to his
totally
son?
crowd surf, and then he'd get up stage, and it'd be like a Chris Farley moment, where he like doesn't know what to say, and then the mic cuts out again, or it's the kid, in the band or something, and dad's
The
around.
reality is like this could
And
go really well or this can go really bad.
And in true
There-
millennial
Sean
fashion,
Gold-
at the end of Forrest Gump 2, he doesn't own a home, and and his house gets foreclosed in 2008.
They said we got some kind of ninja loan, a mortgage. I don't know. I never saw any ninjas in there. So in the chat, Sean Gold fills in all the little details of these pitches. And one of them, which is great, is Gump runs into a young actor and accidentally spills his drink on him. Gump apologizes, asking if he did that. The actor, Jaleel White, uses the phrase on his show. God, I do that.
Oh,
It's so cheesy, but I love it.
Yeah, he could show up in
Word.
90s television too.
That
That'd be
would work
interesting.
though.
Oh my God, yes, the Fresh Prince of Savannah or
Right.
wherever of
Yeah.
Alabama.
Fresh Prince of Shrimpin.
Fresh Prince
fresh.
of Shrimpin.
Fresh Shrimps of Bel Air. That'd be so
And he
good.
kind of raps in the beginning, and
Well, that's like there's
I'm
kind of
not-
this
I'm
thing
not
about
gonna
that with like Forrest, like he does all these things in the movie, and everyone has a different favorite thing. Like some people love the military, some people love football, some people love the shrimping, whatever, the running. It would just be cool to see that continue, just to see him continue to do random things that, like Forrest
just
takes
insert
Manhattan,
himself
Forrest
in
in
things,
LA,
yeah,
Forrest Hawaiian style. Like you could pretty much put
Forrest
this character
does the
anywhere.
Forrest 5-0.
Yeah.
And honestly,
I mean,
if you're Forrest Jr. rapping, I really have to, at this point, have to put in my pitch that I really need to see Chet Hayes as Forrest Jr. in this. Like, I love Haley Joel, but I feel like it needs to be Chet Hayes, his kid.
You're just
Chet,
gonna cut
like,
Haley out like that? Just
honestly, if
her?
if we're not taking a sequel to this series, so we got to put it. Chet Hayes is the perfect person to be going on all these rapping adventures and playing ping pong and running around. Like, I love Haley, but like,
man.
put him in another spot. But Chet Hayes is really bred to be Forrest Jr. and Forrest
there
Gump
could have
too.
been another kid after. It doesn't have to be Haley. Like Haley could be a little older.
true.
Forrest got busy with someone else. Jenny had a sister or something. Now that's weird.
Penny.
Jenny, Penny. And she gets sick again. No.
And it's a crossover. It's Forrest Gump 2, Showgirls 3, Pennies from Heaven. Honestly, okay. Somehow Forrest Gump inherits the Cheetah Club from Showgirls. The crossover in me just can't help. There's also one that my friend, the very talented mashup artist Matt Sharp, created a Forrest Gump Running Man crossover. And fucking dude, shit my pants if I wouldn't pay good money to see that. Like just Forrest Gump as a contestant on the Running Man, it would be incredible.
He is the running man. I'll run all of them. He'll just keep
That's
running.
what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's good.
And like,
Sounds
and what
boring
kind of
because he's
creative
never not
ways
running.
like Forrest is gonna fucking think of some interesting ways to kill Dynamo, to kill Buzzsaw,
Oh my God.
or to
Could you see like Forrest going up against Hulk Hogan in the 80s? Or something like that?
I don't know.
Well, I mean, Buzzsaw pretty
Pro
much
wrestling?
is Hulk Hogan, anyways. Forrest does wrestling. Okay.
Yeah.
You could do that, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's
him and
sportsy,
Andre
that's
the Giant.
90s.
Jesus.
Oh,
I don't
dude,
even know
Forrest
if he could
Gump.
get 10 minutes out of Hogan.
Forrest Gump.
Isn't a
inspires-
Hogan biopic coming? Isn't that still coming with Hemsworth or somebody?
I'm saying
I
no
hope
because
not. I
Forrest,
hope not.
Hulk
It's
Hogan
timed
can't.
out.
Timed out.
Here's what has to happen for that movie to take place or to occur. Hulk Hogan needs to shut the fuck up and stop reminding people that he's like a racist sex tape fucking weird motherfucker. Like, no disrespect, I grew up and I love the
Steroids
guy
will do
growing
that
up.
to you, bro.
But like, if your fucking sex tape is racist, like, how fucking racist must you be? Like, you know what I mean? Even your sex
the
tape
sex
is.
tape is private, so
I get it.
guess,
I feel
but-
bad about that. Like,
And it's already illicit, so it may as well be very illicit, right?
yeah, it's
That
that is
I don't
complicated.
know.
I will say that. Like, no one deserves to have their fucking sex tape revealed to the world.
Some
Unless
people-
Exposes you for being an asshole. It
people-
is pretty fair
Unless
game.
maybe it's a racist one.
Forrest
Then
Gump
maybe
Jr.
you
would meet the
deserve-
Pamela
Kardashians.
Anderson
Hogan-
deserves it. Pamela Anderson.
Hogan was also
Red
on the
Slater.
700 Club earlier this week, and he's selling John 3:16 with Hulk Hogan logo shirts on them.
Oh, my
So there's no gaps for Hogan.
fail.
So I'm all for
Hulk
Forrest
Hogan.
kicking his ass. Actually, I think that's a great idea. Now that we're talking about it,
No, it's not
I think
bad.
it
The
would be
wrestling,
great.
like I said, I mean, I get you with the sports stuff. I would say I like the Showgirl spinoff, but from the New Year's Eve scenes with the prostitutes, like that's where that jumps off from with the Showgirls. They were
Oh, yes.
Showgirls, and that's where it comes in. You know, where Lieutenant
Ooh.
Dan is like, you got to get some, and there's that weird bro
Tastes like
code
an
thing that's
predator.
going on that like. I don't
If we're
know
going-
about
like
you
this.
guys.
I
Like, I've
like
definitely
this,
been in
yeah.
good situations with buddies like that. Like, okay, you know, you got to help me out, or like a wingman
Well,
situation.
I think a key ingredient to Forrest, and this is a Zemeckis trademark too, is that Forrest kind of doesn't even really have a character arc. I know it might sound like blasphemous
There's
to say.
there's no antagonist.
No, yeah.
That's
no,
that's a Zemeckis thing. The nonlinear, the history stuff, the unique
it's
special
a-
effects stuff. It's all the Zemeckis trademarks in a movie.
It's a
right here.
biopic, really. It's,
And
it's,
yeah, oh yeah,
it's
totally.
An
I
awesome
mean,
biopic.
It's
Yeah.
a biopic. It's a coming of age. It's a
Sports.
period movie. It's a special effects movie. It's an Oscar bait movie. It's a lot of different things, and that's a Zemeckis trademark. Like Roger Rabbit's like 10 different kinds of movies in one too.
Yeah.
But when we were talking before about like movies versus films, there are certain films that are very close to the movie side of the spectrum, and Forrest Gump is one of those. It is very much
It's
like
a
a
crowd
movie.
pleaser,
It
yeah.
works. It does work as a popcorn movie or whatever movie, but it is one of the great American films. Like Goodfellas falls in that category as well. We're like, yeah, it's totally a film, and it totally changed the way people make films and all this stuff. But
yeah.
it's also a great fucking movie. And that's almost kind of a Zemeckis trademark as well. Like I think Castaway kind of falls into that category as well. And I feel like Castaway doesn't get enough respect. And you know, maybe Forrest Gump got more than it needed. More
I
than
think
enough,
mainly
more
just
than
to
any movie needs,
counteract.
It's a
but,
blessing and a curse because you can't. I mean, for Zemeckis, it's very hard to top Forrest Gump.
Yeah.
It's pretty much like mic drop, I'm out.
Yeah. But,
But
to
I think,
yeah,
but I
counteract
think
all
that
of
was,
your
but I
love
agree with
for
it. I think it's
Zemeckis
the
here.
I think it's the audience that took Forrest Gump more because if you really look at like the
It's the
history of Forrest
character.
Gump,
It's just the character. Yeah.
well,
yeah.
critics hated it. I mean, every critic review of Forrest Gump was, I mean, they didn't like it. No
It
critic
doesn't
liked
fit
it.
anything. It doesn't have a
I think
great
it's
Yeah,
more-
structure.
and it's
doesn't-
kind of true. It's not a great, like it's not a great. I mean, put it in the most like the Academy Award categories. I mean, there are other Academy Award winning Best Pictures that have more substance, way more than Forrest Gump did.
Yeah.
You know, but it was so charming that it just won audiences so much. Like it
You
Forrest
got to give it
Gump's-
to Tom Hanks. I know you keep saying Zemeckis, but
But no,
Tom
it's true.
Hanks
No,
does
Tom
so
Hanks-
much with this character.
you know, I put this and like Shawshank Redemption are two of the like. It's just everybody will put in this movie these two movies, and it's just you enjoy it. You can't. I don't think
Yeah.
anybody can hate Forrest Gump.
Now the interesting
Even
thing,
you can
what
hate
you're saying,
Ginny, but I don't think you can actually hate Forrest Gump. It's just
Oh,
a
for sure.
feel good.
You kind of can't. You can dislike it, but you can't hate it. Yeah.
Yeah, you know,
It's got too many
everybody will
likable
enjoy some
components.
part of it.
Like I said, with
And-
all the positive that comes out, that's my only knock against what you're saying, Chris, with Zemeckis, is that to me with Zemeckis, it feels like this sheen over it, like these rose-colored glasses, and like this is how the world is, and this is not how the world is, and like it doesn't
Yeah.
take us on a ride that brings us the characters farthest away from the goal, and then the goal. There's just random episodic things. It could have been a TV show. If they were making it now, they'd probably make it as a TV show.
It was.
In
It was
fact,
called
that's
Quantum.
probably
It was called Quantum Leap.
I was thinking,
oh, dude, that's it. That's the pitch. Quantum
Forrest
Gump.
Gump, Quantum
I
Leap.
want Forrest Gump.
That's really good.
he gets
That
stuck
is
in Forrest's body.
props on
Oh
that.
my
That
god,
is
that would
really
be
good.
incredible, dude. I want the butterfly effect meets Quantum Leap with Forrest Gump. It can get a little dark. It's
A little
very
bit of Final
sci-fi.
Destination, maybe.
Yeah, a little bit of that. Oh
Little
yeah,
death.
I
I
love
was-
that.
I
Because
was
Forrest
thinking if you
Gump,
want-
you know,
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, if you want to go a really dark Final Destination sort of way, move away from Forrest altogether, because Lieutenant Dan had that history where everyone in his family has always died in a war. And I was thinking we do a Final Destination thing where Lieutenant Dan, being the only part, he died in there. So that's why the world has been so shitty. And basically, Death agrees that if Lieutenant Dan gets the rest of his family killed until like 2025's wars, then maybe things will get back to better or something like that.
I would really actually watch.
Or like a deal with Pinhead or something in
in
Hellraiser where it's like, or The Crow even. It's like, you know, The Crow,
Lieutenant Dan and
Gump
Cenobites.
comes back, or Hellraiser 3, like Gump versus Pinhead. Like something where he kind of goes away from reality and then comes back.
100%, yeah.
I also would love to see the giant, like $350 million bomb of a 90s sequel. Like, what's the Waterworld, the Speed 2 cruise control version of Forrest
Gump
Gump
and Company.
2,
that's
where,
what
like,
it would have been.
Gump and Company was that. Yeah.
1996. If there
Because
was
the
Gump
other
and
thing in the
Company sequel,
book
that would have been
that
the bomb.
gets left out is in the original book, he's 300 pounds doing all this
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, they wanted John
At
They
all.
wanted John Goodman for it.
Yes,
Oh,
John
wow.
Goodman. I can't picture it. I can't even ever.
It would be a good movie, but it would
It's
be
the
an
other thing
entirely
here,
different
they're
movie.
writing a fine line, right? The character that he plays, if it's not received correctly, then people protest this movie, right? Because
So-
of who he's representing and he didn't do it. And like, think of like Ben Stiller in Tropic Thunder, right? Parts of that movie are almost unwatchable with the trailers and stuff because it's
So I've
so
often
offensive.
thought
I mean,
about-
don't get me wrong, Robert Downey in blackface, obviously, but you know, the other stuff is so wildly offensive that movie doesn't hold up in that way. It's really
So,
funny.
I mean,
great
on
movie.
the offensive note, I've often thought about, like, what if you had an Avengers style movie of all the guys who've played people with learning disabilities?
no, thanks.
you have Dustin Hoffman.
I Am Sam.
And yeah, I Am Sam with Sean Penn. There's a lot more people who've done this
There's
than
a
you
lot.
even realize. You have Tom
Billy
Hulse
Bob,
and Dominic and Eugene.
Billy Bob.
Billy
You know,
Bob.
you could do something like a One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Like you can have them all in like
They're
all
in a place that's good.
Yeah, all crazy. And you could throw in like Bruce Willis.
Nah, I
unfortunately,
guess maybe,
but
but that's
now.
tough.
But you could throw in like Brad Pitt maybe in there, whatever case may be.
Oh, maybe
Oh,
from
like 12 Monkeys,
not
Brad
Fight
Pitt?
Club,
Yeah.
Yeah.
12 Monkeys. That character from
Yep.
12 Monkeys. It's
Oh,
all
okay.
loopy doo, you know.
Yep.
I thought you were going to say Burn After Reading Brad Pitt or something.
That's a good one too. Oh man,
That's like
that
one
movie,
of my
that
favorites.
dildo machine.
Brad
is the only
Pitt
thing I
is
think
seriously.
Oh
a
my
character-
God, yeah.
I stand by
obvious.
this. Brad Pitt is a character actor, and we just didn't know it all these years. Because if you really watch all of his movies, he's
Yeah.
playing a different character. You just
I
think
mean-
he's playing Brad Pitt.
I'll tell you
Here's the
something
thing.
though. Truly, Brad Pitt's biggest talent is as a producer, and we don't see it because we don't see what he does behind the
Yeah.
scenes. But he is such an excellent. When they did Fury, Shia LaBeouf was so hard to work with because he went method and didn't shower that Brad Pitt had to do it and fix him because he was an actor and they're peers. And he had to move him to another hotel and like convince him to shower so no one threw up in the tank. Like he really, and then he did 12 Years a Slave. Like he's really.
Yeah.
I respect him in that way more than most people do. I think.
Well, the other thing I think with Gump, I was kind of saying this before, but with him being the non-reactionary character, it's the magic sauce, the secret sauce, if you will, is sort of who you put Gump around. Put him around a loud drill sergeant. Oh, that's amazing. Put him around like, another Gump-esque guy, that
Power
Bubba.
Programming, yeah. Bubba.
Yeah,
is
it's
totally
so
different.
Lieutenant Dan. Oh, that would be, so again, kind of
His
circling back to
relationships.
that
His
idea of
relationship.
him. That idea of him at like the cheetah from Showgirls and with Robert Davi, like give me like a more northeastern version of this, like there's like some mob stuff going on and there's some whatever. There's just like I mean honestly
the
any
kid
of it
can
would be
go
fun.
to college in New York.
I can't even
Oh,
picture
back
like,
to school with Gump.
Oh man, the athletics. He could do the
Yeah.
triple Indy.
Yeah, I got one
The
year
triple
eligibility
Indy.
left.
Do you guys think Tom Hanks earned the Academy Award for this?
Sure.
Now, interestingly
Oh,
enough,
he
I
did
do
so
think
much. You know where he got
does.
the draw? You know where he got that from?
from
Was
the
it
kid.
the little kid?
The kid.
Yeah.
What actor would do that? Some kid, some punk kid. Who is this kid?
Now,
He takes it from
I will
him.
say
That's-
this. I think this is his easiest Oscar that he'll ever win in his life. Because I think once he got the draw, I think he didn't have to do much. He doesn't have a ton of big speeches or a ton of big moments. There's some really good quiet
his stiffness and stuff.
There's some really good quality quiet acting there, no doubt. A lot of like things that aren't in the script that he brings to it. But
the way that he runs,
it's
so
the first heavy lifting job that he's ever done in the movie. I think
it took them 9 years.
I think he had to lift a lot more in Philadelphia acting.
But that was after. That was after Forrest, right?
Philadelphia was the year before.
Yeah, Philadelphia was young Denzel too. Yeah.
But was he filming this like during or right after? Like it just that Philadelphia came out first?
It was right after because that's why he's so skinny. Because he had lost all the weight from Philadelphia, and he hadn't.
Yeah,
but to your point, they had been developing it for a long time. It took 9 years. They instantly thought about the book and let the writer do something. They're like, "That's trash," and then it took them 9 years to get it all together. And that's a lot of Zemeckis and Hanks hanging out, figuring this out.
It definitely solidified
the line. How do we do this right? What are the set pieces? I mean, they probably even filmed other stuff that we never saw. That's like not bad,
Well,
I think they're an underrated pairing.
The movie to me has always been about this. Again, I've said it before in the show. It's a baby boomer remembrance movie, and baby boomers are a big group that just have always been very reflective. I mean, starting with American Graffiti and the Happy Days movement, the Sha Na Na movement of the 50s, the Woodstock, memories and all, that I don't know if our generation is like that. I mean, only now, as I'm almost hitting 40, have I really started getting nostalgic about like the 90s. Like today, I was talking about the 90s with my film students, and I just don't know if a Forrest Gump for like the millennial group would work as much, because are we nostalgic about moments? Do we remember moments like?
No, I know what you're saying. I had a conversation with someone the other day, and we were like, "It was the '80s forever. Everyone wants the '80s. I want all the '80s all the time."
Yeah, we've been.
I'm not a millennial,
but the
so
'90s was like
work.
a quick second, and now they want the aughts, and everyone wants. I know people don't like hearing the aughts, but that's just the way I say it. But the 2000s,
I think a lot of
now
people
everyone's nostalgic
though.
for the 2000s because that was 20 years ago. But it's like, well, the 90s went for just a blip, and people were like, oh, okay, Full House and this and that, whatever, and some of the other stuff we love, and then boom, we're on to 2000. So I think it's a little more ADD-ish that people are just. Next.
I was going to say
next week it'll be the 2010s, or something.
The 80s will never go away, though. Like there's this thing. We've been in 80s nostalgia mode for decades. And it's palpable now. It's been like literally 30 years of 80s nostalgia, and that's
cocaine keeps coming back.
It just always comes back. They'll never fully let it die.
I finally got the
literally you think they're done. Oh no, New Beverly Hills.
I'm surprised that it's not legal before marijuana.
So we are just about out of time.
Freud almost did it for us back in the day. A weird thing I learned, I don't know much about presidents, but every now and then I learn some. Jimmy Carter actually ran on like legalizing weed. The only reason it didn't happen was a member of his cabinet got busted with coke and he had to be hard on drugs, and then it was all downhill from there. Yep. But then we see, I don't know if you guys saw this yesterday, they're going to like completely reclassify weed now.
They are finally.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's not going to be a controlled substance anymore. It can't be.
That's long.
It's still going to be a controlled substance. It's just going to be Schedule 3. Yeah, it's going to be Schedule 3 instead of Schedule 1.
I tip my hat because you are more knowledgeable. I brought it up, but you went up me there. Thank you.
Yeah, I sat back on the Forrest Gump stuff for the most part. Then I was like, my time to shine on weed.
Weird. I know people did some pitches already that really liked the One Flew Over the Cuckoo Nest, but now I'm like, when does my pitch come in?
When? Yeah. Well, this is the time. I was going to read these last few in the chat.
Oh, go ahead.
So that'll give you a sec to catch your breath. Comic Kai Brothers pitched Forrest Gump 2, flashback of Forrest and his life. But he joins, or Forrest's son, it's flashback of his life as he joins a karate dojo and wins a worldwide tournament. So I'm always in favor of that. Whiskey 41 says Forrest Dark 30. Angie Saunders says Forrest John Wick. Whiskey 41 says Forrest and Loathing in Las Vegas. I'm sold. That's just perfection right there.
That's like a roast beef movie,
I killed my dog.
Forrest. There's Reservoir Gump. There's Forrest Escapes from New York, and I would 1,000,000% take that. A John Carpenter Forrest Gump movie. Oh. Yes.
Zemeckis is involved, so it's Zemeckis and Carpenter like putting it together.
I don't know how it worked.
Defer to Carpenter.
I mean, Zemeckis
so,
has to be there if Gump is there. Like, he has to.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, Zemeckis will executive produce, and get
EP,
Carpenter in there. So, but before we wrap it up, is there anything you guys have got going on you want to let the VCR home audience know about? Anything plug-wise? People, or just want to let people know where to check you out online on Insta and all that?
Yeah, I will. I just recently started working at a new publication in the weed industry. If anybody likes weed and tech, it's called Cannabis and Tech Today. You can check them out at Canatech Today on social media and canatechtoday.com. And I'm always down to do some cool ideas. That's only a part-time gig for me. So if anybody wants to link up on some weird horror stuff, pro wrestling, weed, or any other fun shit like this, how I got connected with these guys, please hit me up anytime. I'm at the Canna Writer on social media, whatever they all are.
I would pump a couple things. A show that I just wrapped a little while ago, a new Ryan Murphy show that, speaking of sports, is I don't know if we can read it. It's called American Sports Story. So it's in with the American Crime Story, like OJ and American Horror Story, and it's all about Aaron Hernandez and his entire story.
Nice. Whoa!
To when he died.
The documentary was awesome.
It's so funny. I was scouting and everybody was like, "Oh, like the documentary?" I'm like, yeah, but narrative. And people are like, "What's narrative?"
It's kind of cool.
Okay, like
I would love to
actors,
see
and
that.
stuff, you know.
I would love to
But
see that.
I don't exactly know what it's going to be because by the time we got to the end of it, we were shooting tandems where you have multiple units and lots of rewriting, and it's hard to keep track. But they tried to stay faithful. The casting was pretty cool. It was a lot of fun to make it. Working for Ryan Murphy is a trip, but man, he puts out a lot of stuff. I'm hoping a trailer in like a month or so because I'd love to advertise my work because there's not a lot of work out there right now, and so we'll get back to it soon. But they're saying September, so I hope I don't break rules by saying that stuff. But if I do, then whatever. I gave it to you. And then we're working on I'm working on my own project. Not a lot yet, but I'll get you guys some links soon. It's called Cabin Break. It's a horror film. It's kind of how I met Chris with some stuff I'm doing with this. And then on top of all that, man, this is awesome. I really like being involved with the show. Thank you again for having me.
Oh, you guys have been fantastic. Please come back anytime.
Absolutely.
Mickey,
Definitely.
Ian, is there anything going on in your corner of the world let the home audience know about?
There will be an article soon for the B-Movie Challenge on Invasion of the Blood Farmers. So stay tuned for that one.
Wow,
it's a
Mr.
terrible movie, but my gosh, the blood looks fantastic.
Mr. Invasion of the Blood Farmers, but get Last Dragon away from me, Ian Klink. Why am I not surprised? Let me throw
the guy glows for no reason.
My quick pitch was probably breaking the rules for my first time on VCR, but
there are no rules.
I didn't mention her name once. Prequel, Sally Field doing her thing, probably tapping into everything she did. Maybe she hooks up with Smokey and they go across with the bandit. Maybe she's flying around like the nun. But Sally Field was very nice looking and could definitely a young version of her. And my idea was she's pregnant the entire time and Forrest is moving around doing all the stuff with her. And we find out that actually Mama Gump is what we really want.
Oh man,
The dad is Benjamin Button.
Sure. Yeah. Because we never see the dad. So there's a whole story right there with who that is and where that, and maybe it's really how I met your Gump father or something. Like it's something like that. But I just couldn't go.
I got gumped.
Talking about a sexy Sally Field. You know what I mean?
Oh, I love Sally Field, and I'm so game for that. I mean, any spinoff you could pick, like Lieutenant Dan. I would watch the Lieutenant Dan movie. I would watch the Jenny movie. Just about her doing heroin and getting like smacked around and shit. Like that would be a dark.
It's basically Jim Morrison or something.
But I'd watch it. Yeah. Just like the Doors, but it's Jenny. She's
there's so much of her story we don't see. We really just see the rock and roll and her going to the edge. Like we don't see a lot more of that.
Yeah, we kind of see the lowlights of Jenny. It would be cool to see some of the highlights, maybe.
That sequence, I gotta be honest. I told you I didn't understand Jenny. Like that sequence, I didn't know what was going on, but it scared me. I really was like, she's jumping. This is terrible.
The funny thing is, I remember my mom narrating that scene. She gets in the balcony. My mom's like, she thinks she can fly. I'm like, oh, okay. What the fuck?
And your mom's literally saying you
never take drugs.
You realize it's Freebird, and you're like, oh.
Yeah, but what your mom was really doing was saying, that was me. I did a lot of drugs back then, and I'm admitting because I thought I could fly.
That was actually my dad while watching this. Yeah.
I love
He
it.
was, he's like, yeah, I did that there.
Yeah, I dabbled.
Oh.
Yeah.
I didn't get the good stories until years later, but it is about time for me to remind you fandom fans that you might want to tune in next Wednesday at 9 p.m. when we slim up for our Nutty Professor episode. As always, if you enjoyed this video, the best way to help is to smash that like button and leave a comment telling us what movie or TV franchise that you want us to cover on a future episode of VCR Redux. And since you're already doing that, you might as well go ahead and like, subscribe, and follow Fandom Spotlight, The Canon Writer, Pop Culture Punk, and till then, back up those Betamax, rewind those Laserdiscs, and we'll see you at the movies.
Run, Forrest, run!